Thai ex-PM Thaksin leaves country before crucial leadership vote. Trump signs order to lower auto tariffs on Japan. Salam Aldu Rasul, Salam Malaysia Madani. This is World Today. I'm Sahih. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim today urged Muslims in the country to face the challenges of nation building by upholding the Sunnah and emulating the struggle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In a Facebook post, Datuk Seri Anwar said, through Prophet Muhammad's leadership in Medina, the foundations of modernity were laid, including human dignity, the principles of justice and the rule of law, the pursuit of knowledge and morality, as well as humanitarian values rooted in religion. He highlighted that the Madani society, in the sense of the community successfully formed by Prophet Muhammad in Medina, as a Khaira Ummah or a superior community. He said this community is characterized by faith, good values, service to universal humanity, and a commitment to upholding virtue while eradicating wrongdoings. The Premier noted that with a deep appreciation and understanding of the essence of the Prophet's teaching and legacy, it will continue to guide and mobilize Muslims to work harder, remain disciplined, and stay optimistic about the Ummah's future. Thailand's former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra announced his departure from the country hours before a parliamentary vote that could oust his party from power. The influential political figure revealed his exit via social media early Friday morning, stating he had left by private jet. His departure comes amid declining influence for his family due to mounting legal and political challenges. He plans to visit friends in Dubai and consult with respiratory and orthopedic specialists during his stay. His daughter, Petongtan Shinawatra, was removed from office last Friday by the Constitutional Court over an ethics violation. Parliament will vote Friday for her successor, with Conservative rivals likely ending the few Thai party's leadership since the 2023 elections. Thaksin faces a crucial Supreme Court verdict next week regarding his early prison release. The 76-year-old former leader stated he intends to return to Thailand by 8 September to attend court in person. Thaksin was ousted in a 2006 military coup and spent 15 years in self-exile before returning in August 2023. The Palestinian Authority, Arab countries and the Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC) have condemned Israeli plans to annex the occupied West Bank, warning that the move would heighten regional tensions and undermine the two-state solution. Israel announced its intention to annex 82% of the occupied West Bank to prevent the creation of a Palestinian state. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry said Israel's unilateral measures, including settlement expansion and land seizures, would not establish any legal right over Palestinian land. It described Israel's plan as a direct threat to the prospect of establishing a Palestinian state and an extension of systematic incitement aimed at deepening annexation, displacement and crimes of extermination. Jordan's foreign ministry also condemned Israel's statements and its incursion into occupied Palestinian territory, calling them a violation of international law and a challenge to the global consensus on a two-state solution. GCC Secretary General Jassim Mohammed Al-Budaiwi denounced Israel's dangerous and provocative plans, saying they reflected a deliberate Israeli policy to destabilize the region and sabotage peace efforts. He urged the international community to take immediate and decisive action to stop Israel's unilateral practices. One of the European Union's most senior officials has called the war in Gaza a genocide, ramping up criticism of Israel and slamming the 27-nation bloc for failing to act to stop the crime. European Commission Vice President Teresa Ribeiro said the genocide in Gaza exposes Europe's failure to act and speak with one voice, even as protests spread across European cities and 14 UN Security Council members call for an immediate ceasefire. The European Commission has accused Israel of violating human rights in Gaza but stopped short of accusing it of genocide. Ribeiro's use of the term genocide could put more pressure on EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen to take a tougher stance against Israel. Von der Leyen's commission in July proposed cutting funding to Israel's startup over the war in Gaza, but so far the move has not got the backing of a majority of countries. Nearly 2 years into the devastating conflict, Israel has built up its forces in recent days, with troops operating on the outskirts of Gaza City, the Palestinian territory's largest urban centre. More than 24 countries have pledged to join a force to be deployed to Ukraine after any eventual peace deal with Russia, aiming to deter Moscow from again attacking its neighbour. Force for Ukraine is a key pillar of the security guarantees a coalition of mainly European countries want to offer to Ukraine if the war ends via a peace deal or a ceasefire.
Nous avons aujourd'hui 26 pays qui formellement se sont engagés, plusieurs autres ont encore à clarifier leur position, mais 26 pays qui se sont engagés à déployer comme force de réassurance des troupes en Ukraine ou à être présents sur le sol, en mer ou dans les airs pour apporter cette réassurance au territoire ukrainien et à l'Ukraine le jour d'après le cessez-le-feu ou la paix. Cette force n'a pas pour volonté ou pour objectif de mener quelques guerres contre la Russie, mais c'est une force qui doit garantir la paix et apporter très clairement un signalement stratégique.
The French president said the troops would not be deployed on the front line but would aim to prevent any new major aggression. Macron added that another major pillar is a regeneration of the Ukrainian army so that it can dissuade Russia from a new aggression apart from resisting a new attack. However, the extent of any US involvement in any eventual security backstop remains uncertain, even after European leaders spoke to President Donald Trump via video conference following the summit in Paris of the so-called Coalition of the Willing. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for closer coordination with North Korea in global and regional affairs as the two leaders of the two nuclear-armed neighbours held their first meeting in 6 years. Kim Jong-un was on a rare foreign visit to China, his most important ally, joining Russia's Vladimir Putin alongside Xi at a massive military parade commemorating the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. Kim and Xi held talks at Beijing's Great Hall of the People, where the Chinese president said his country attached great importance to the traditional friendship with North Korea. Xi said Beijing is willing to maintain, consolidate and develop bilateral ties no matter how the international situation changes. Xi told Kim that China is willing to enhance high-level exchanges and strategic communication with North Korea, deepen mutual understanding and friendship, strengthen interactions at all levels, and carry out practical cooperation in various fields. He added the two countries should also strengthen coordination on international affairs and safeguard their common interests.
Guna mentol jimat tenaga untuk lebih jimat.
Coming up next, Britain and Norway signed £10 billion maritime defence deal. US President Donald Trump has signed an order to lower tariffs on Japanese autos as Washington moves to implement its trade pact negotiated with Tokyo. According to the text of the executive order published by the White House, Japanese autos will face a 15% tariff instead of the current 27.5%, while the level for many other goods will similarly be capped at 15%. The outcome marks a win for Japan after Tokyo's tariff envoy headed to Washington to press Trump to sign the document for the changes, weeks after both sides announced their agreement. While the two countries had initially unveiled a trade pact in late July, they appeared to diverge in its details. When Trump in early August implemented high tariffs on Japan as part of a flurry targeting dozens of economies, its 15% rate stacked on existing levels for many products. However, according to the new order, the 15% cap for many products will apply retroactively to goods shipped from 7th August, the date that the higher duties on dozens of economies took effect. The modifications are to be made within 7 days of the rule being published on the Federal Register. Japan's deal wins aid at a similar reprieve to the European Union, which also has a 15% maximum tariff on many products. Norway and Britain have signed a £10 billion agreement aimed at strengthening Norway's maritime defence capabilities, marking the Nordic country's largest military investment to date. Norwegian officials said they had chosen Britain as its strategic partner for the acquisition of new frigates following a competitive process that included proposals from Germany, France and the US. Norway is NATO's monitor for the vast 2 million square kilometers area of the North Atlantic used by the Russian Northern Fleet's nuclear submarines. A key mission for the frigates will be to monitor Russian submarines whose base is on the Kola Peninsula, an area in the Arctic bordering Norway. The deal will eventually see a combined fleet of 13 anti-submarine warfare frigates, 8 British and at least 5 Norwegian operate jointly in Northern Europe.
This is a deal that will create a combined Norwegian-UK submarine hunting fleet in the North Atlantic and High North, 13 strong. This is a deal that will strengthen NATO's northern flank and that will lead the way in forging new standards of interoperability for nations within NATO. And this is a deal that will make defence an engine for growth in both our countries, supporting thousands of jobs for many years to come.
Norway shares a border with Russia and is ramping up defence spending in light of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine and US President Donald Trump's demand that NATO allies must bolster their own military strength. US President Donald Trump plans to sign an executive order to rename the Department of Defense as the Department of War. The order would authorize Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the Defense Department and subordinate officials to use secondary titles such as Secretary of War, Department of War and Deputy Secretary of War in official correspondence and public communications. The move, which would put Trump's stamp on the government's biggest organization and likely cost hundreds of millions of dollars, would instruct Hegseth to recommend legislative and executive actions required to make the renaming permanent. Since taking office in January, Trump has set out to rename a range of places and institutions, including the Gulf of Mexico, and to restore the original names of military bases that were changed after racial justice protests. Department name changes are rare and require congressional approval, but Trump's fellow Republicans hold slim majorities in both the Senate and House of Representatives, and the party's congressional leaders have shown little appetite for opposing any of Trump's initiatives. Changing the name will be costly and require updating signs and letterheads used not only by officials at Pentagon in Washington, D.C., but also military installations around the world. Argentina's Congress, for the first time, has overturned a veto issued by President Javier Milei, raising the stakes for the libertarian leader as the country heads into consequential legislative elections. The vote by the opposition-controlled Senate, which was 63 votes in favour and 7 against, was a final push to overrule Milei's veto of a bill that increases spending and protections for people with disabilities. The lower house in August first voted to overturn the veto. Congress' overturn of the presidential veto precedes legislative elections in the province of Buenos Aires this weekend and midterm elections in October. Milei, who currently has a small minority in Congress, needs to increase his seats to be able to keep his policies on track. According to local media outlets, the last time Congress overturned a full presidential veto was in 2003 under President Eduardo Duhalde. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has promised security aid to Ecuador and announced terrorist designations as he vowed to ramp up a regional fight against criminals. Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa, an emerging ally of US President Donald Trump, has deployed troops to combat violence that has transformed the country from one of Latin America's safest to one of its most dangerous. Rubio, meeting with Noboa in the centuries-old palace in Quito's old city, said the US would provide nearly $20 million in security aid, including $6 million in drones. He also noted that the US is designating 2 gangs, Los Labos and Los Corneros, as foreign terrorist organizations, putting them directly into US crosshairs.
Thank you once again. We will talk.
Hablamos de la posibilidad, no es algo hecho todavía, pero la posibilidad de estacionar elementos militares de Estados Unidos en territorio, en cooperación obviamente con el gobierno, que crea oportunidades para poder cooperar en conjunto, entrenar en conjunto y enfrentar una amenaza que tenemos en común.
Ecuador's Foreign Minister Gabriela Summerflat meanwhile said Ecuador wants to see the Americas region free of threats from transnational organized crime groups and terrorist groups that want to subjugate the citizens.
Bersihkan penapis penghawa dingin dan tetapkan 24 darjah Celsius untuk lebih jimat.
The death toll from the powerful earthquake that struck eastern Afghanistan last weekend rose sharply to more than 2,200, making it the deadliest in decades to hit the country. The vast majority of those killed in the magnitude 6.0 earthquake that jolted the mountainous region bordering Pakistan late Sunday were in Kunar province, with a dozen deaths and hundreds of injuries reported in neighbouring provinces Nangarhar and Lagman. Access to the hardest hit areas was stymied by already poor roadblocks, by landslides and rockfall. They continued as the area was convulsed by strong aftershocks. On Thursday night, a shallow 5.6 magnitude earthquake hit near the epicenter of Sunday's temblor near Jalalabad city in Nangarhar, shaking buildings as far away as Kabul and the Pakistani capital Islamabad. It was the seventh strong aftershock recorded by the US Geological Survey, plunging survivors repeatedly into fear. The earthquake destroyed more than 6,700 homes in Kunar province alone, where survivors are living under the elements, barely any aid having reached them. Various countries has flown in assistance, but poor infrastructure in the impoverished country, still fragile from 4 decades of war, has hampered the emergency response.
There was also landslides in the area. Dozens of houses were...
Investigators probing the fatal derailment of one of Lisbon's famous funicular trains released early details, confirming that foreign visitors were among the 16 people killed. Officials said 5 Portuguese citizens have been fully identified through scientific methods, whilst the close collaboration of the South Korean embassy had assisted in identifying 2 South Korean citizens. One Swiss victim was identified through Interpol. Police said they had good reason to believe that 2 Canadians, a German, a Ukrainian, and a US citizen were also among those killed. The Yellow Gloria funicular, a beloved symbol of the Portuguese capital, veered off a steep stretch of tracks Wednesday evening in one of Lisbon's most popular tourist spots, crashing into a building. Emergency services said 15 people, 8 men and 7 women were killed instantly, and 1 person died later in the hospital. Following the crash, the authorities halted Lisbon's 3 other funiculars to check the conditions and safety of their operations. Health authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo have declared a new outbreak of the Ebola virus, which has killed at least 15 people since the end of August. Health Minister Samuel Roger Kamba said the new outbreak is in central Kasai province. According to provisional figures, 28 suspected cases have been recorded in Kasai province, with the first case reported on 20th August in a 34-year-old pregnant woman who was admitted to hospital. According to the World Health Organization, which has dispatched experts alongside a Congolese response team to Kasai province, case numbers are likely to increase. The Democratic Republic of Congo has a stockpile of treatments for the viral hemorrhagic fever, as well as 2,000 doses of vaccines that will be moved to Kasai from the capital, Kinshasa.
C'est pour cela que j'annonce officiellement, au nom du ministère de la Santé publique, Hygiène et Prévoyance sociale, la résurgence de la maladie à virus Ebola de la souche Zaïre dans la zone de santé de Boulapé, dans la province du Kasaï. Il s'agit ici de la 16e épidémie enregistrée dans notre pays de ce virus Ebola.
First identified in 1976 and thought to have crossed over from bats, Ebola is a deadly viral disease spread through direct contact with bodily fluids, causing severe bleeding and organ failure. The deadliest outbreak in the country, whose population numbers more than 100 million, killed nearly 2,300 people between the year 2018 and the year 2020. Italian luxury king Giorgio Armani, designer to the stars and leader of a high-end lifestyle empire, has died at the age of 91. His company did not give a cause of death, but Armani missed some shows earlier this year due to unspecified health issues. Although a tireless driving force of his company, Armani was forced to cancel his menswear show in Milan earlier this year due to health reasons. He also missed the Paris Armani Pride show on doctor's orders. His company in a statement said that Armani passed away peacefully surrounded by his loved ones. It said his funeral next Monday will be private, but well-wishers will be able to pay their respects at a memorial chamber open on Saturday and Sunday in Milan. The best-known contemporary designer, Armani opened his fashion house in Milan in 1975, quickly rising to the top of the industry and going on to dress Hollywood. The Italian icon was credited with inventing red carpet fashion, but also moved into a less expensive range aimed at a younger market through Emporio Armani and open luxury hotels. His death came just weeks before celebration for 50 years of his eponymous label culminate at Milan Fashion Week and raises the questions of succession. Coming up in sports, narrow win over Singapore provided valuable lessons on areas to improve. Stay with us. National football squad head coach Peter Klimowski described the narrow 2-1 victory over traditional rivals of Singapore in a Tier 1 international friendly last night as a valuable lesson for the Harimau Malaya squad ahead of the upcoming matches. The Australian coach praised his team's performance but stressed that there were still many areas for improvement after they allowed the opponent to reduce the deficit.
So I think overall, proud of the players to get the win for the country. No game's ever easy, and tonight was another example of that against a good opponent who we respect. And this is what I was saying about having a balanced approach with our camp where we balance freshness, keep building our identity, put our stamp on our football, whoever plays, and connecting to an important September at the players' clubs to come into October camp, which is important for us to get 6 points.
He said it at a press conference after the match at the Bukit Jalil National Stadium. In the match, Malaysia opened the scoring in the 26th minute through a goal by Stuart Wilkin. This followed by João Figueiredo in the 55th minute, giving the home side a comfortable lead. Singapore, however, managed to narrow the gap through Ilhan Fandi in the 72nd minute. Meanwhile, Singapore head coach Gavin Lee admitted that Malaysia showed higher quality than his team in the match.
To this game, and we expected a difficult game at their home ground with the fans behind them, and we got what we wanted, really, to be pushed to our limits, to be kept on our toes for 94, 95 minutes, and that was a very important prep for us in terms of bringing ourselves together one step closer towards India qualifiers.
Malaysia will next face Palestine in another Tier 1 international friendly at the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium in Iskandar Putri, Johor next Monday. Egypt are just 2 wins away from securing qualification for the 2026 World Cup as they prepare to host Ethiopia on Friday before travelling to Ouagadougou to take on Burkina Faso on 9 September. The Pharaohs are top of Group A in the Confederation of African Football qualifying rounds with 16 points, 5 ahead of Burkina Faso in second, while Ethiopia lag behind in 5th place with 6 points. Egypt will be targeting nothing but a win when they take on Ethiopia in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualification Group A match on Friday. The game is set to take place at one of the biggest football venues in Africa, Cairo International Stadium. Premier League player of the season, Mohamed Salah, has scored 6 of Egypt's 14 goals in the campaign, including the winner in a 1-0 victory over Ethiopia back in March. Egypt coach Hossam Hassan, when met by the media, said that winning the Africa Cup of Nations after a long absence would be fantastic for this outstanding generation. He added that reaching the World Cup and advancing would be even more special, showcasing the team's performance and bringing joy to Egyptian fans. Meanwhile, Ethiopia are also unbeaten in their last 2 matches across all competitions, having trashed MLS side DC United 3-0 in a friendly match, and it was their 2nd win in a row after overcoming Djibouti in a Group A clash. Tottenham Hotspur's long-serving executive chairman, Daniel Levy, is stepping down from his role after nearly 25 years, the Premier League club announced on Thursday. The The London club, in a statement on its website, said that the move was all part of the club's ambition to ensure that it is set up to deliver long-term sporting success. Levy, known for his tough negotiating style, has often been a source of frustration for fans who blame him for failing to deliver the players capable of winning regular silverware. Since Levy took the reins in 2001, Tottenham had won just 2 trophies, with the 2008 League Cup followed by the long wait that ended with last season's Europa League final victory over Manchester United. A series of failed managerial appointments and the club's transfer policy infuriated supporters and turned up the heat on Levy, who was accused of caring more about the club's financial profits than the success on the pitch. He, however, has also been responsible for transforming the club with a new stadium and a state-of-the-art training ground. Tottenham endured their worst top-flight finish since 1976 to 77 last season, coming 17 before salvaging the campaign by winning the Europa League to qualify for the Champions League. It said there were no changes to the ownership or shareholder structure of the club. Juan Ayuso sprinted to victory in the 12th stage of the Vuelta a España on Thursday to seal his second win at this year's race. After stage 11 on Wednesday was cut short because of a pro-Palestinian protest at the finish line in Bilbao, it was a far quieter afternoon on the winding 145-kilometre ride from Laredo to Los Corrales de Bueno in the north of Spain. There were no disturbance to the race as UAE team Emirates Ayuso edged out Spanish compatriot Javier Romo, with Briolic Roland coming in third, 13 seconds behind. UAE announced this week they would part ways with Ayuso at the end of the season, with the Spaniard saying he felt he had been afforded a lack of respect by his team. Leader Jonas Vingegaard and the peloton came in well over 6 minutes behind, but the Dane stays in red, followed by João Almeida and Tom Pidcock. The general qualification favourites had a quiet afternoon, saving their legs for the challenge to come on Friday. Ayuso showed greater power to fly past Romo on the home straight, with the latter showing his frustration as the former celebrated. Riders will tackle one of the toughest climbs of the race in Hungary, where the stage ends after a 202.7-kilometre route from Cabezon de la Sal in Cantabria.
Liga Super Malaysia 2025-2026. Musim baharu, wajah baharu. Kini kembali dengan aksi yang lebih membara. Menggegar pentas utama bola sepak Malaysia. Nantikan pertembungan demi pertembungan dalam mengungguli tangga terbaik Liga. Nantikan ledakan aksinya bersama RTM, rakan penyiar.
That's it from us this afternoon. In our top story, Thai ex-PM Thaksin leaves country before crucial leadership vote. Malaysia Tonight comes at 8:30 p.m. this evening on TV1 and MyTV's Berita RTM news channel. Salam Alaikum Rasul, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat Disantuni. Thank you for watching.